remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the day and come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His grace and mercy. And so today, inshallah, we will take another hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he mentioned a wonderful saying of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, whoever says, La ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulk wa lahul hamd, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. There is none worthy of worship except Allah. Alone, He has no partners. To Him belongs the dominion, the kingdom. And for Him is all praise, and He is able and capable of all things. Whoever says this 100 times in a day, and this will not take more than a few minutes, inshallah, then what is it equivalent to? He said it's equivalent to him freeing 10 slaves. Freeing 10 slaves. 100 good deeds are written for him. 100 bad deeds are raised from his account. It is a protection for him against shaitan during the day until the evening. And no one comes with something better than him except for the man who does more actions. And so a wonderful hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which we praise Allah. We mention that He is the one that deserves to be worshipped, and He is the one alone who has the kingdom, and He is able to do all. And if we say this 100 times in a day, then we have a great reward. It is as if we have freed 10 slaves. 100 good deeds are written for us. 100 sins are erased for us. And nobody comes with better than that. And we are protected from shaitan throughout that day. And nobody will come with something better than that except one who does that and more. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq, the ability to carry out His remembrance. And remember, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you again next time.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Monday's episode of Ask Eman, where we're going to be here for the next hour, inshallah, with you brothers and sisters, to take your questions about your life as a Muslim and get them answered for you authentically according to the Quran and Sunnah as usual. So if you have any questions, give us a call on 0203 5150 769. Otherwise, you can send us your questions to our WhatsApp number, email address, or if you're watching along on Facebook, you can leave your question at the comment section and we can put that forward to the Shaykh today as well, inshallah. So without further ado, I'll be your host for today, and joining us is Shaykh Wasim Kempson. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Thank you for joining us today.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you today, Shaykh?
I'm very well, jazakallah.
Alhamdulillah. So as we start every show, Shaykh, I'd like to ask you for a short reminder and then we can get started with some questions, inshallah.
Inshallah. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. All praise belongs to Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah Jalla wa ala be upon His final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. I want to mention a very important principle in Islam, and this is something which will, if we understand it correctly, will help us in all aspects of our life. Now, as Muslims, we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is in fact the meaning of a Muslim, that we submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this principle is that everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us with is for benefit for us, and everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited us from is to save us from harm. even though a person may look at that what we are commanded with and that what we are prohibited from, that a person may justify the opposite of that. But that can only be a partial understanding. And an example of that is alcohol. A person, as we know, alcohol is haram. But a person may justify, say, you know, there are some benefits in alcohol. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala affirms this. However, the harm in that is far greater. So if we are prohibited with something, it means that the harm far outreaches any good that can be understood from that prohibition. Similarly, with the commands, the awamir, whatever you're commanded with, a person says, well, there's a difficulty in that. Fasting, Ramadan is coming up, it's a long day for 18 hours and whatnot. However, Allah Jalla wa Ala did not command us with any matter except that there is a benefit for us. I'd like to just focus on one particular obligation that we are all required as Muslims to fulfill on a daily basis, and that is the prayer. A person offers their 5 daily prayers because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us in the Quran, وَأَقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ, and establish the prayer. وَأَقِيمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِ, as was said to Musa alayhi salam, establish the prayer for my remembrance. So the prayer isn't just merely, although it is the most important, it is the best way that you will show your obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but there is a practical benefit that the person will benefit or take from on a daily basis. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ, that you establishing your prayers will help you stay away from wrongdoing and evil. So a person who is involved in haram or is falling by the wayside or their desires are taking over, immediately look at your prayer. If your prayer is weak, then maybe it is because of this that you are falling into haram. But if you're establishing the salah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yu'eenuk, will help you to stay away from the haram. And as we are coming up to the month of Ramadan, just over 3 weeks or so, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to reach it, that it is a good time for us to re-establish the prayer in our lives, to establish sunnah prayers, so that when we reach the month of Ramadan, we find ourselves in a good way. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is best.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you for that. We're going to go now to our next caller of the show. Assalamu alaikum to our brother or sister. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. My name is Junaid and I'm calling from London.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh, brother Junaid. What's your question for us today?
I have one question that because basically I'm going on a trip, or I've been put down to go on a trip for what's it called, the house of the Prime Minister's house, 29 Downing Street. Basically, they want us to do a role play, but I'm going with another school, and the other school has girls with them, and so I might have to do like a role play acting as the Prime Minister's cabinet for like a budget, and might have to with women, but it's just talking about like maybe like making a fake budget with them. That's my first question. And the second question I have is about
what is the question though? What is the question?
Well, brother Junaid, the first question, just summarize it quickly so we can understand it a bit better.
So am I allowed to go on a trip where I have to role play
that's clear.
with the opposite gender?
Oh, got it. Okay then. Thank you so much. And your second question?
And the second question is, you know, this sujood at the end of the salah that you do, if you like, for example, forget something in the salah, what happens if you forget that sujood and you remember like later on after in like another prayer? Do you do it like there once you remember?
Okay, got it.
Okay,
so he forgot sujood.
Sujood sahu.
Sujood sahu.
And he remembers it in another
yeah, okay,
prayer.
sure.
Thank you so much, brother Junaid. May Allah reward you. So, Shaykh, first question was regarding participating in a play where there's opposite genders involved as well.
طيب, so Bismillah. Concerning this role playing, you're going to number one, the destination that you're going to, is it a suitable destination? Yeah, it's a suitable destination for you. That's number one. Number two is the role that you will participate in. Now, if at all possible, you can try and find out what role, and I think the brother alluded to that, the role that he's going to participate in, that he's going to be an individual who will try to make up a particular budget. Now it's obviously known that you're not impersonating other people. You're just making your own thing for the benefit of for the purpose of benefit. As long as you're not involved in, it doesn't require you to do something which is against Islamic principles, then essentially there's not a problem in that. You interacting. I mean, you go to a school, I assume, in the first place, which has, both boys and girls or men and women in that, and you behave appropriately while in school, and similarly you will behave appropriately concerning this particular role play, which is acting out, making a budget. It is not as though that you are participating in something like Romeo and Juliet. Okay, that's something completely different. It may involve something which is an issue, but I don't see a problem in that. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. That brings us to our break now. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's watched along so far. Thank you to Brother Junaid who called in at the first segment of the show. We're going to take a short break now for a few minutes, after which we'll be back to continue our show. For now, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to today's Ask Eman show, where we're going to be here for another 45 minutes to carry on taking your questions, brothers and sisters, and get them answered for you, inshallah. So, in the lead up to Ramadan, we probably all have some questions about fasting, about how we should be spending our time, maybe some advice, maybe how we can make up the fasting which we missed last year. So as we get closer to Ramadan, take the opportunity to call the show, to not just ask general questions, but also ask questions about how you can get ready for Ramadan, inshallah. So the number to call us on is 0203 515 0769. Otherwise, you can send your questions to our WhatsApp number, email address, and if you're watching on Facebook right now, or YouTube, you can send your questions or post them on the comment section, and we can put them forward to the Shaykh as well, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Welcome back after the break.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So we're going to go to our next question on WhatsApp, and the question is, Assalamu alaikum. Actually, we had a question from the call. The second question was about, first question was about the play. After this question, I'll remember it, and then I'll put it forward, inshallah. So our next question on WhatsApp, Sheikh, is it permissible for a girl to see a boy's picture during proposal? Second question, is it permissible to put on makeup when a guy comes to meet you in your house for a proposal?
طيب, shall I remind you about the first question?
Yes, please.
Because then if it just goes further and further and further into memory, then it's more likely to be forgotten. So
yes,
the brother
please.
mentioned about forgetting sujood sahu.
That's it, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So concerning this issue, sujood sahu, if it is due because somebody forgot one of the obligatory wajibat of the salah, if after the prayer and a very short time, let's say you're still in the place of prayer, and a very short time that you remember that you didn't perform sujood sahu, then you can perform it right there and then. If, however, that you remind or you remember a while later, you have left the masjid or a good while has passed, you're busy doing something else completely, then in this issue, then saqat an, there is no need for him or her to do that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is best.
Thank you, Sheikh.
As for your question now is, you just say again, so the viewers.
Yeah, so the first question was, so this is from a lady's perspective, are you able to see a picture of your potential spouse?
Okay.
Secondly, are you able to put makeup on at a meeting?
Yep. So it is from the sunnah that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did say, even to a number of companions, that you should see the person that you are going to marry, so that you feel maybe some form of attraction. There's the Prophet ﷺ said concerning, I think it was Jabir radiallahu anhu, he said he was going to get married, and the Prophet ﷺ said, did you see her? He said no. He said, go and see her. So it is from the sunnah to see a potential spouse, and not to marry somebody without having seen them at all. This is the first issue. The second question is a sister wearing makeup. Of course, when you go to see or somebody is coming to visit you, you don't want to look in a way which is like you've just fallen out of bed, for example. Okay, no one's expecting that. On the other hand, you present yourself in the way that you would normally do. There's no need for you to present yourself as though you're going to go to a hafla, to a party, a waleem or something like this. And there's no need to present yourself like that. You present yourself in a respectable way. That's really all that is asked of you. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Thank you for the answer. Our next question is going to be from WhatsApp, and the question is, please ask the Shaykh if men are allowed to use sleeping bags during Hajj.
Jaid. So, are you allowed to use sleeping bags while on Hajj? The question is quite often asked, because we know that while a man is in a state of ihram, that he shouldn't wear any stitched clothing. And the more correct understanding of stitched clothing is, well, if you think about the ihram, the clothing that you wear, the ihram clothing, is that not stitched? It is. If you wear some form of sandals and there is some thread in that, then that's stitched as well. So really, what is the intended meaning behind the prohibition of stitched clothing? So the Prophet ﷺ made it clear in another hadith, for example, a sirwal, like a trousers. So stitched clothing that would be worn on the body and takes the form of the shape of the body, that's the form of stitched clothing that is not allowed while in the state of ihram. طيب. So the question now is, and I'm mentioning this so the person understands the reasoning behind the answer. Okay. So does a sleeping bag take the ruling of a stitched clothing that is worn as stitched clothing? We say no, it does not. Okay. So it is no problem, inshallah ta'ala, you but you can use a sleeping bag while performing Hajj. If you really want to remove yourself from any form of jubha, then if you wanted to leave the side unzipped, because it doesn't cocoon you if you like, then you may want to do that. However, we say that the use of, if there's a need for it, and if you find at the moment that Hajj is now going to be in the middle of the summer, I can't think of a time really when maybe you're going to use a sleeping bag, especially when you're outside. Inside the tents where they're air conditioned and you may feel a little bit cold, then yeah, la ba's. It's allowed for you to use them, as it would be allowed for you to use a blanket, but be sure not to cover your head while in a state of ihram. Allahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. We'll take our next call now. Assalamu alaikum to our caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from? Assalamu alaikum. You're live on Ask Eman. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Saifa and I'm calling from Birmingham.
Welcome to the show. And your question for us today?
Basically, I had two questions. Before it hits Ramadan, I will be about 8 months pregnant. I'm already kind of struggling through my pregnancy with a few minor health issues, but I'm not sure if I should keep my fasts or not. But that was one question. Also, I am having difficulties with a bit of health, but I want to know if there's any kind of dua that I could read during my pregnancy, try and help me to get through it.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you have any other questions for us today?
No, that was it. Jazakallah.
Well, yeah, thank you for calling, Shaykh.
Okay, so there's two questions here. The first question being a pregnant woman, she's about to or may about to undertake the month of Ramadan, whether they're in the 1st or 8th or 6th or 5th month. So what's the ruling concerning their fasting? So I say, first of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah Azza wa Jal make it easy for the sister, make it whatever's remaining from her pregnancy easy for her, make the birth for easier for her, and grant her a pious child. Allahumma make it easy for the family. So with regards to pregnant women, pregnant sisters, what is the situation with fasting? If they should always seek medical advice. The first thing, they should always seek medical advice concerning any issue which may affect their health. But if they are physically able, and by fasting it doesn't, there's no medical issues concerning the unborn child, then fasting is prescribed for them. However, if by fasting causes them to be distressed, an illness, or that there is a danger to the unborn child, and again they should seek medical advice from that, then they have reason to not fast and make the days up later. They make the days up later. They don't just, as a common understand, that they just pay for the days that they missed and they don't have to do it. No, those days remain in their account. If they don't fast the days, they remain in their account, and they make the days up when they can. So the person, after seeking medical advice, determines whether that they are physically able to fast. Obviously, with fasting, there is some mashaqqa, that there is some difficulty in the fasting, and this is upon a person who is even healthy, because you're abstaining from food and drink. But what I'm talking about is beyond that. Beyond that, what everybody would feel when they're fasting. If there's anything beyond that, that maybe causes you to be ill, then you would have reason to break your fast. Other than that, if there's no other issues, then you would fast like everybody else. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh.
Sorry, you have to stop?
No.
Yeah, this is also another question about concerning dua. A general dua, there's not a specific dua. If I'm pregnant, then you make this dua. You could just make general dua, sister, in your own language, no problem. That you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for you, to give you strength, and whatever you feel is specific to your situation. and whatever help you think that you need specifically, then you can make dua as you like in the best way. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you so much for your answer. Also, we'd like to advise if you're suffering any difficulties, then of course seek medical attention or medical advice as well with the situation to just help you cope with it and deal with it, inshallah. So our next question, Shaykh, is from WhatsApp. The question is, what's the difference of a rukn in salah compared to a wajibat? I don't think we have enough time, so I think we'll deal with this after the break, inshallah, if that's okay with you, Shaykh. Thank you. So we're going to take a short break for a few minutes now. After that, we'll be back to continue our show for the next 30 minutes of our show, inshallah. We'll be back live, so you're still able to give us a call, send us a message on WhatsApp, email, or at the comment section of our YouTube live stream right now. So until we're back, stay tuned. For now, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to today's Ask Eman show, where we're going to be here for another 30 minutes, inshallah, live to take your questions, brothers and sisters, and get them answered for you, inshallah. So the number to call us on is 0203 515 0769. Otherwise, you can send your questions at the options you have coming and going at the bottom left side of your screen, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh Wasim. Welcome back after the break.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Our next question, Shaykh, is going to be from our WhatsApp questions. And the question is, it was about the rukn of Salah compared to the wajibat. So what's the difference of a rukn in Salah compared to a wajibat or a wajib?
Okay. So, Bismillah, when looking at the prayer, we find that the prayer is made up of a number of different actions and statements. Now, the scholars looking very carefully at what the prayer is based upon, because we know that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli," pray as you have seen me praying. There are certain aspects of the prayer which are considered a must, that cannot be left out, meaning that if they are left out, it would render that prayer batila. It would render the prayer invalid. Okay? Then there are aspects of the prayer which, if a person forgets to do that, then they can make up for it later within the prayer by performing 2 prostrations of forgetfulness at the end. Then there are aspects of the prayer which, if they are forgotten, then it doesn't affect the validity of your prayer. Your prayer is valid, but maybe there's a deficiency in the complete reward. So those matters which are an absolute must, that have to be done and performed, which if a person doesn't do or forgets, is not sufficient for you to perform 2 prostrations at the end. You have to do it. This is a rukn. This is a pillar of the prayer. As for the wajibat, or the obligatory acts or statements, then if forgotten unintentionally, then they can be made up at the end of the prayer by performing 2 prostrations of forgetfulness. That's essentially the difference between a rukn and a wajib within the prayer. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Our next question is, Assalamu alaikum. We all know that there are about 5 things that if we are to fulfill while praying, by the will of Allah, our prayers are accepted, and one of them are, the heart must not be busy or occupied with thoughts of anything else. How can I control my thoughts during praying? And if you could elaborate on the other 4 things, Shaykh.
Start the question again, please.
Yeah, so we all know that there are 5 things that if we are to fulfill while praying, then by the permission of Allah, our prayers will be accepted. And one of them is...
Okay, fine. So,
yeah.
If a person makes a statement that there are 5 things to do, so your prayer is accepted, you have to make clear what you think those 5 things are. Okay. Al-Muhim, what is... I don't know about that, to be honest with you. Allahu A'lam. What I do know is what is mentioned from that is that the heart should be present, and that you are concentrating and you know what you're doing within your prayer. If you want to call that tama'nina, if you want to call that tranquility within your prayer, or khushu', this is also another word that can be used. Not only that you have tama'nina, which is tranquility in what you are saying, but there is tranquility in the movements as well, so you're not rushing through the movements. And this was one of the reasons that the Prophet ﷺ commanded one of the companions to repeat his prayer, because he wasn't performing the movements in a correct manner. So, inshallah ta'ala, what will help you gain khushu', attention and tranquility in your prayer is, number 1, is to have tranquility in your movements. And also to, whatever you need to say within the prayer, let it be measured. Don't rush through it. Okay? Concentrate on what you are saying, that you are saying it correctly, and to the very best of your ability that you understand what you are saying. Okay? And this maybe you don't know very much what you're saying in the prayer, but allow this to be an opportunity for you to start. So you know what you're saying, Rabbi ighfirli, between the 2 prostrations. When you say, Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, likewise you know what you're saying. Another important point is that you pray as we were taught by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that your salah is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With regards to all actions, two conditions must be fulfilled. One of them is al-ikhlas, sincerity, that it is offered only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And secondly is as al-mutaba'ah. And that is that the action that you are mutaba'at al-Nabi alayhi salam, that what you are doing is in the way that you were taught. You're not making something up. So you pray as you were taught by, or as we were taught by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are the kind of things that you can focus on to help you keep your heart busy and concentrate on what you're saying. Also other things like having more knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, know who you are worshipping and know who you're submitting to, will also help you concentrate in your prayer. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
Thank you, Shaykh. With that, we're going to go to our next caller. Assalamu alaikum to our caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm calling from London. I have two questions for the Shaykh. The first one is regarding cheese. I just wanted to know whether non-vegetarian cheese is permissible to consume, or is it always best to have cheese that is suitable for vegetarians? And of course, this is in relation to the rennet in the cheese and whether it's from a vegetarian or non-veg source. And the second question is about in prayer. I just wanted to know what the correct way is of doing it, because currently when I'm praying, every time I go into ruku', I'm doing it. When I get up from ruku', I'm doing it. When I come back up from sajda, I'm doing it. I just wanted to know whether there's a correct way of doing it.
Doing what exactly in prayer?
Rafa yadayn.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Is that okay for
all right.
both questions?
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for your call.
Yep. So the first question is concerning the ruling of rennet, which is something that's used in the process of making cheese. There is it's a substance that's taken from the stomach. If it's milk, if it's from cows, then it's taken from the stomach of the cow. It's a liquid. If it's taken from animals which were not slaughtered, halal, is it permissible for us to use that cheese? The ulama have differed over that. However, there are some, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he mentions that a number of the companions, that they would eat the cheese that was made from the Magians, the Majus. And it is known that they made the cheese in a particular way, and they didn't ask about it. They didn't question that. So therefore the actions of the Sahaba concerning this issue shows, inshallah ta'ala, that there is a permissibility eating the cheese which does contain rennet in that.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. And the next question was about Rafa'ul Yadayn, when and when not to do it.
Yeah. So Rafa'ul Yadayn, there are two schools of thought, in general, two schools of thought concerning what do we mean by Rafa'ul Yadayn. We mean the raising of the hands within the prayer. So we can begin with, obviously we know at the beginning of the salah, we raise our hands. All of the ulama agree upon that. This is called Rafa'ul Yadayn, the raising of the two hands, whether it's equal to the shoulders or to the earlobe. Then all of the ulama, all the four schools of thought agree that the hands are raised at the beginning of the prayer. As for the remaining part of the prayer, then the ulama, some say you do not and some say that you do. Based upon the hadith of Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would raise his hands at the other points in the salah, and that is when going down into ruku', before you go down to ruku', and when coming up from ruku', and also when you come up for the second rak'ah, if that's a prayer that contains more than 2 rak'ah. So these are the other occasions which was authentically narrated by a number of the companions radiyallahu anhum. You must respect as well that there are other schools of thought on this, and there are other understandings that you do not. And we respect the views in this. It's not a matter for people to differ over. It's not a matter for people to argue over. But if a person takes that view, they take their view and they have the evidences from that great ulama. And if they take the other view, then they're entitled to that view as well. And other great ulama have their evidence as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the view that I personally take is that you do raise your hands at those times, and Allah Azza wa Jalla is best.
Thank you, Shaykh. we'll go to our next question now on WhatsApp. And our next question is, now this is a follow-up, Shaykh, to the earlier question from the rukn and the wajibat in salah. The follow-up is, and what do I have to do if I miss a rukn compared to missing a wajibat? Is that still relevant to ask?
It's still very relevant, yeah, alhamdulillah. So concerning if you miss a rukn, now first of all you need to know what the arkan are, pillars of the prayer. So things like standing, things like takbiratul ihram, so rukn, entering the prayer, standing, the recitation of al-Fatiha, ruku' and sujood, and also the second sitting at tashahhud and taslim. These are all arkan of the prayer, rukn or pillars of the prayer. If a person forgets them while they are in prayer, and they are in the prayer, then either, this needs a bit of explanation, by the way. Do we have time for this?
No.
Khalas. We'll do it after the break, inshallah, so we can explain it clearly to the brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Shaykh. Jazakallah khair. We're going to go now for a few minutes break, after which we'll be back to continue the show and our answer from the Shaykh, inshallah. For now, stay tuned until we're back for the last part of the show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone back to tonight's Ask Eman show, where we're here for the last 10 minutes of the show. So if you have any questions, give us a call on 0203 515 0769. Otherwise, send your questions to our WhatsApp number, email address. And if you're watching along on YouTube right now, then you can leave your question at the comment section, inshallah. So, Shaykh, we were on the, Assalamu alaikum, welcome back.
Wa alaikum salam.
We were on the question about missing a rukn and how to rectify it.
Jayyid, okay. طيب, bismillah. So concerning a rukn, which we said that has to be performed and can't be made up, except that you actually perform or say that pillar. Let's take for example Surah Al-Fatiha. Now a person begins their prayer and says Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika, and says this as a dua at the beginning. Oh Allahumma barik, Allahumma ba'idni wa bayna khataya. The different du'as that you make before at the beginning of the salah. And then you're supposed to go into A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You recite Surah Al-Fatiha. However, the person recited Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad. Didn't recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay? Then they said Allahu Akbar, went into ruku'. If while in that the rak'ah you realized that you did not you realize you did not recite Al-Fatiha, you go back to that position. You go back to a standing position and you recite Surah Al-Fatiha. If you had got into the second rak'ah and then you realized that you had forgot whatever one of the pillars were in the first rak'ah, then you would disregard that first rak'ah. So now you begin, this is my first rak'ah, and you now have 4 in front of you. Okay? This is what happens if you are in the salah itself. If you remember that you didn't perform one of the pillars in the prayer, after the prayer and a long time has gone, you repeat the whole prayer. You repeat the entire prayer. If the pillar that you missed out was only one pillar in one of the rak'at and you finished, so you'd finished 3 rak'at, which was sahiha, valid, no problem, but one of the rak'at was incorrect because you didn't perform the pillar, you didn't recite Al-Fatiha, for example, then you can get up, because it's very close, that you're still in the same sitting and you remember, you can perform 1 rak'ah, and then you make sujood al-sahw at the end, and then you complete your prayer, and that's valid. But if it's a long time, you would repeat the whole prayer. Now,
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Our next question is, Assalamu alaikum. Can a sister accept a proposal from a brother over the phone after they have met in person? And if so, is she allowed to take an engagement ring and even give a hug in appreciation? If she is a divorced sister, what can she do in this situation, because she lives on her own and most of her family are cities apart and her parents are back home in Africa?
so after they've met, they then have continued correspondence, communication, and then, what else?
Yes, so can a sister accept proposal from a brother over the phone after they've met in person?
طيب, okay.
If she is able to, can she take an engagement ring from him and hug him?
Okay. So concerning this whole issue of proposal, Islamic proposal, we have to ensure that it is done correctly. طيب, is done correctly. Now, Islam, alhamdulillah, stipulates that the woman has a guardian through the process of somebody proposing to her, that it is done correctly. Now, if a sister happens to be on her own, then she shouldn't be dealing with somebody else on her own, another brother. She shouldn't be dealing with him on her own. Therefore, my advice is for the sister to, if her mother and father is in a different country, then the father can somehow arrange a representative, whether it's some female member of the family, to be with her, to speak with her, to advise her, and then she can have constant contact with her father, so the father is fully in the picture of what is happening with his daughter. This is Islamic practice. Okay. If then somebody proposes to her and then gives her a ring, then we don't have engagement rings, number 1, in Islam. If somebody wants to give a gift to another person and it comes in the form of a gift, rather in the form of a ring, طيب, jazakallah khair. But we don't have engagement rings in Islam per se. Secondly, it's not permitted for you to touch a woman that you're not married to. Okay? It's not allowed for you to hug or shake hands. It's not permitted for you in Islamic practice. If after marriage the aqd nikah has been, or the marriage contract has been completed, then it's your husband, it's your wife, and you behave as you see fit. But before that, it is not permitted for you to do that. Okay, what I would advise is for the somebody else to be within the picture, so that you don't fall into problems. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you for your answer. Our next question, Shaykh, is going to be from our caller. Assalamu alaikum to our caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Walaikum salam. I'm calling from, my name is Khalid. I'm calling from East London.
Welcome to the show, brother Khalid. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And your question?
My mom passed away last month, and I just want to find out if I make dua for her, will she know it's coming from me?
Okay. Jazakallah khair for your call, brother. Do you have any more questions for us?
No.
Okay, stay tuned for the answer, inshallah. May Allah make it easy for you and your family. Jazakallah khair.
So we know that when a person passes away, that all of their actions, they come to an end, except for إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاث, except, as what the Prophet said, except for 3 of them. One of them is وَلَدٌ صَالِحٌ يَدْعُو لَهُ, that a pious son or daughter will make dua for them. So I say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon, the brother said it's his mother?
Yes.
May Allah azza wa jal have mercy upon his mother,
Ameen.
and make it easy for her in her grave. Allahumma ameen. And secondly, that you making dua for her is a great act, and is wajib upon you. It's an obligation for you to do as much for your parents while they are alive as, subhanallah, when they pass, if they pass before us. So you making dua for your parents, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as long as you are alive, that you make dua to Allah, for Allah to forgive them, to have mercy upon them, to make it easy and give them steadfastness in the grave. And you can set up maybe an ongoing charity for them, which would be good for them. As for the individual, do they know the deceased? Do they know that this individual made dua for me, this individual made dua for me? As far as I know, wallahu ta'ala, that there's no evidence to state that the individual will know that this person is making dua for you. But the person, inshallah, will benefit from the supplications that are made for them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you. Now, just to take this to another question, Shaykh, for those of us who have lost loved ones or are going to lose someone, we know they're going to pass away soon, or maybe something's going to happen suddenly, it's life, and potentially we'll all be in this position anyway. Death is written for us and those around us.
More than potentially.
Potentially, no. It's fact, exactly. It's fact. So, Shaykh, how do we understand? It could be a moment that is very hard, difficult, shocking. It could probably maybe emotionally and mentally destroy some of us, and it takes maybe 6 months or years to even pick yourself back up. How do we understand how to deal with this in the right way and healthiest way for us personally, and something in a way that pleases Allah as well?
Yeah, so, death will come to every single soul, and it is at times, depending on the closeness of that individual to us, is a musibah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will indeed test you, and from those things that you will be tested with is nafs, that people will pass away. So this is a test and will affect people in different ways. However, we behave as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to behave, that we accept what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed, because all of this is by the will and decree of Allah Jalla wa Ala. And everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, whether we understand it, is best. This is what Allah Azza wa Jal willed. And we know that everybody will pass away. Death knows no age. Death is not written for a particular age and then that's it. It can happen to anyone in different ways. And this is the hikmah, or the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we do not question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom in what happened. Rather, we turn to Allah Azza wa Jal, the one who's testing us, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, then we turn to Him to give us patience, to make it easy for us, to try best to make sense and to get through the difficulty, because leaving, of course, missing a soul, a beloved one leaving us is difficult. But it is not a permanent, inshallah ta'ala. It's not a permanent loss. It's not a permanent separation. It's not a permanent separation. You have to understand that. That one day, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, you make dua that Allah Azza wa Jalla yajma'akum fil jannah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reunite you all in the paradise. Okay, so from that sense, we think good about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The loss now is very difficult, of course. You make dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla. وَلَا نَقُولُ إِلَّا مَا يُرْضِي رَبُّنَا. We do not say except anything that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet ﷺ said when he was holding his son, Ibrahim, who was maybe just 20 months old. So these are important things for us to understand, and not to become angry about what has, the way that person passed away. Maybe they were young, and the person says, oh, they had their whole life in front of them. We don't know what was in front of them. If they died in a good way, upon righteousness, upon being steadfast, then inshallah ta'ala this is a good sign for them. Maybe a person, if they were to live another 10 or 15 or 20 years, who knows what that person would die upon. So whatever age that they pass away, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the patience and the sound belief to get through the difficulty, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to make it easy for all those brothers and sisters who are facing it. Allahumma
ameen. Thank you so much, Shaykh, for joining us today. That brings us to the end of our show. Jazakallah khair. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in so far today for the whole show. We're going to be back tomorrow at 7:30 with Brother Mahmoud, inshallah. So until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.